Hello, hello, Recover and Rise fam. How are you doing? Welcome to our live training this week. Julie will be popping on here with me. If you guys are on here live with us, say hello. And why don't you guys drop in the comments where you're from? And we've got people from all over the globe in this group, so it's always nice to see where we're from. And we actually have some other events coming up too. So we may be getting to actually see people in person in this group, because I know a lot of people are in the GTA and Toronto area. So this is super exciting. So to start off today, I would love, I'm gonna add Julie in here, would love to welcome the new member group. So we have Felicitas Ritter, amazing, Manny Shah, Justin Lee, Yossi Kaplan, Samantha Jones, Victoria Lynn, Beck Seabrook, Darren Hawley, Janine Bell Jarvis, Testify, Angie Marie, and Rianne Owen. So welcome, welcome. We are super excited to have you here in the group. Hi, Julia. And make yourself at home in this group. This group is for all of us. It's just a big community, and we're all diving into really being able to dive deeper into our own recovery and our own healing journey so that we can start living a more fulfilled and meaningful life and really create the lives that we want and the legacies that we want to leave for this planet. So yeah, make yourself at home and say hello. Don't be shy. And a few more things that I wanted to kind of chat a little bit about before we pop into the topic for this week, which is overcoming the movies in our minds, which is an amazing topic. And I'm really excited to chat more about this because it definitely can pull us into different loops, and then they really steer our lives in different ways and create different trajectories in our life. So before we go into that, if you haven't already seen in the group, there is a post in there that says boundaries. And so there's a free workshop that Julia did, and we have that in there. So if you want to receive that free workshop, I would highly, highly recommend it. Boundaries are so, so key for us really learning how to call our energy back and start creating a safe container for ourselves so that we can start moving forward and creating the life that we want. So if you have not seen that yet, then definitely either go in that post and put yes in the comments below, or go right down here now in the comments and say, send me the workshop, all capitals, send me the workshop. And I will send that over to you once we're done this live. And then the last thing is, if you're in the Toronto or GTA area, we're hosting a very special event coming up on December 10th, and we would love to invite you. So that information is also in the group as well. I just posted it last night. So you'll see that we are hosting an incredible event where we're going to be doing ice bath and sauna, and Julia's going to be doing sound healing, and I'm going to be doing some energy healing as well. So it's going to be a very small, intimate event. So if you are wanting to join us, then just make sure you grab your tickets right away, because we've got space in that in the venue for about 10 people. So we'll be a nice, cozy group. So it's going to be beautiful, and we would love, love, love to have you there. So without further ado, we'll have Julia come in here and start us off with overcoming the movies in our mind.
So cool, Laura. Thank you so much. You can hear me okay, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'd love to just actually start by dropping us into our bodies. Maybe just taking big deep breaths in, big deep breaths out, big deep breaths in, big deep breaths out. Just asking ourselves what our intention is, what's something we'd love to learn. Laura and I also would love to hear what your intentions are. So feel free to drop it in the chat, what you'd love to learn or what your intention is for this call. Yeah, this topic is so powerful. It came up because I know a lot of people right now are moving through this, where, you know, we're getting into seasons that are more into hibernation. It's a little bit colder outside if you live in North America or in Europe. And, you know, it's really a time where I think also a lot of us are processing maybe what has happened to us over the last few years or what's happened to us over a lifetime. And this was a really big topic for me because I played movies in my mind. And I'm just going to share from my personal experience, and Laura can add in here her personal experience as well. because really that's all I can speak from is my personal experience and what has helped me. So some of you may or may not resonate, but even while I was in my recovery journey, even while growing up and all that stuff, I would fall into these negative thought loops. And they sounded like that wasn't good enough. You should have done better. I would start worrying about what other people thought of me. Did I say the right thing? Did I do the right thing? Am I showing up as the right thing all the time? I chronically would say yes to everyone. It's like, yes, 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 sure, I'll do that for you. Sure, I'll do that for you. Sure, 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 sure. We talked about boundaries too, and Laura has that live free webinar for anyone who does want more about that boundaries topic. But ultimately, sometimes my mind would keep running on these little thoughts that would then become bigger and bigger movies. And I always like to explain this as the snake, and I call it the snake in Recover and Rise, which is our program that we have. We'll share more about that later. But in Recover and Rise, we call these movies the snake, because the snake is really sly and really smart and really likes to catch us when we're off guard. It's the difference between me walking on the street and I could see a white Volkswagen pass by and not think anything of it. And then I could see a blue Volkswagen pass by, and all of a sudden I'm thinking about my ex who drove a blue Volkswagen, and all these past thoughts and memories come up. Oh, he didn't stop to say hi to me. Oh, I should have said XYZ to him back in the day. And then all of a sudden what happens is that my body is full of these feelings that seem so uncontrollable. There's just a little beep. Beep, beep. That's how it feels though in my body. It's like beep, beep, alarm, alarm,
Yeah,
abort mission.
totally.
So the body becomes overwhelmed with these feelings. And then what do? Sometimes we reach for our drug of choice. It could be, self-pleasure, or it could be, um, you know, food, or even just the loop of self-pity that can go on and on and on, right? So those movies in our mind, and the funny thing is that although those thoughts seem real, I would say like 80 to 90% of the time, they're not real. I mean, we are looking at the world with our set of goggles, and just imagine the other 7 to 8 billion people living on this earth that are also wearing their own sets of goggles. But our mind will still try to obsess over the outcomes because we've been conditioned to worry. We think that worrying is productive. So a lot of us will try to worry. And so I used to worry so much, and I would carry the energy of worry into all of my affairs, right? And what that did was it didn't allow me to actually shine. It didn't allow me to actually be who I am in certain situations. It didn't allow me to act out of love in certain situations because I was worried or being defensive or getting into these thought loops. So really, I mean, that's kind of the snake, and I'd love to hear if anyone resonates with the snake. Or Laura, did you want to add anything about the snake that I may have missed?
I think I would just like to kind of bring it back. I love the analogy that you shared about the blue car versus the black car, or whatever the two colors were that you gave in the example, because we could be walking along in life and everything could be all great and groovy and all of this stuff. And then something comes in and we might not even know what it was that activated that something within us. And then it triggers that survival part of our brain. And then all of these overthinking thoughts start coming in, the movies start playing, it starts creating that loop in our bodies. And then next thing you know, we just find ourselves, it's like we don't even remember any of that part. We're just naturally into that thing of choice that we go to, whether it's sitting there on social media, whether we're, like you said, in our self-pity, whether we're in the drugs, the alcohol, the codependency in relationships, and just really latching on to other people to provide us that sense of comfort and safety. And I think that even just the awareness of that pattern and how that works is so powerful to understand, because then we can start having a greater awareness and slowing down that kind of thing, and like reflecting back in and being like, oh, well, what was it that actually activated that within me? Like, what is it that's moving within me right now that kind of happened, so that that would come forward, and then we can start really being able to do something to move ourselves forward and get ourselves out of those loops. And it's so important that we don't continue staying in these illusions or these patterns that are just keeping us in this sense of comfort, or this pleasure that is just very temporary, because then we're living a life from fear. And I know I never really understood this before when people said this, that you're either living in fear or love. And if you had have told me that I was living in fear before, I would have been like, no, I'm not. What do you mean? Because I was feeling pleasure, or I was feeling comfortable, because it was all from the outside. But when you actually take it back to that core root of where it started, it came from fear. And then it looped in to me sitting there being all comfy cozy with my partner and not wanting to let them go, which actually, and when I was in my relationship 4 years ago, I remember not even wanting to, like, I got so in my comfort zone of what I was doing. I didn't even want to like call the pizza guy to order pizza. Like, getting out of my comfort zone was that scary for me. Even something like that, I was just so much in this comfort of what my thing was that I didn't even want to get out of it. And we risk a lot when we stay in that place. We risk so much, because there's so much more to life that we could potentially have once we start shifting through these patterns and start understanding them. And it changed my life forever, being able to start understanding that and start dissecting them and breaking them down, so that I could start getting out of it and start consciously creating the activities that I'm doing and having my needs met consciously and all of these things, so that I could actually be having that sustainable like peace, the sustainable love, the sustainable joy, the sustainable pleasure, the sustainable comfort, all from within, opposed to having to go to those outside things for it.
Love this, Laura. Love, 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 love. We have some I relates, and there were some people who commented in the chat earlier. There were some people who commented in the chat earlier, and when we asked, what are some of the thoughts that keep us down, some people commented it's thoughts about my weight, or it's thoughts about where I live. And Laura hit the nail on the head where, and I did a live video on this on Instagram earlier this week, talking about how, we have to take that time to acknowledge what's underneath, like Laura was saying. Because ultimately what happens is a lot of us try to trudge forward and keep going past these thoughts, and we don't realize we're bringing that energy into everywhere that we go. And underneath there, it's not that we're crazy. It's not that we're crazy. I understand we might sometimes think that we're crazy, and sometimes we take ourselves to those points where we're crying on our own late at night when our head hits that pillow at night, or we might lash out at the people that we love. That's really what's at risk here, is that when we let the snake kind of keep going, we lash out at the people we love, we feel lost at the end of the day, we feel purposeless, or we forget our divine mission on this planet. And so it's not that we're crazy, it's that we're hurt. And what's underneath all of this is likely some hurts, some feelings, some traumas. I also like to call it care. Some of you may know what care is, but care is when we're over caring about what people think, or we're over caring about being someone in this world. And that also influences the snake. And so it's really, and then we become overcritical of ourselves, and we even have shame or guilt about being in those cycles, which just adds on top of it. So it's just like this big perfect storm, this big perfect tornado, and we have to learn how to get outside of it. Because if the perfect storm exists in our mind, well, there's another beautiful storm that exists just outside of it. And when we can tap into that flow, that sense of love, that energy, that perspective, really it's just perspective. And it's about observing ourselves as opposed to being in that storm. And that's really when the miracles happen. All of a sudden we have this shift of perspective where we can see outside of our thoughts and outside of our situations, and we don't react, we can observe, and then we can make different decisions. We see new possibilities. And that's my vision for everyone in this group, is to help you go from the storm into the outside realm of that flow, that love, that external observer that we call it. This may or may not be resonating, so definitely comment below if you have any questions. Yeah, I think that I really just wanted to paint that picture of what kind of happens to create that perfect storm. And in order for us to move from the perfect storm to that external observer, we have to learn how to acknowledge the hurts, how to acknowledge the cares, how to acknowledge the traumas that might be under there. And we go into detail about all of this in Recover and Rise, which is our 10-week program. Laura, I don't know if you want to add anything else in there.
I don't think so. No, I think maybe if you're open to it, putting like what are those snake-like thoughts that are coming up for you right now, in your life, and there may be many of them, like just I find that once we can actually see them, and if you don't feel comfortable putting them here in the comments, but this is a very safe space for everybody, that you are fully loved and accepted and welcome, because this is a human thing. Even right before our call, Julie and I, we sat down for 20 minutes before the call, and we were moving through the stuff that was coming up for us, right? Because even coming on here live, it brings stuff up within us, and it's not that this stuff is going to go away, right? This isn't our humanness. It's about learning how to work with our operating system of being human and having the proper tools to be able to then move through, so we can still show up in the way that we want to show up, to create what we want to create, so we can have the life that we actually want to have. So I think that if you're open to it, just being vulnerable and sharing, like, what are those snake-like thoughts that are coming up for you in your life? And what do you risk? What do you risk by hanging on to those thoughts? And what
Absolutely.
is not really possible for you being in that space? And you may even be in that space, you may not even know what that outside realm really is, like Julia was talking about, where you're kind of able to have this like overarching look on your life and pulling yourself out of the perspective to see, because when we're in it, it's all consuming in it, right? So even if you don't know what that means yet, get outside. That's really one of our big visions for this, is to really help you to get to that point. Because once we can start allowing ourselves to become our own outside observer, to then help ourselves in those situations, become so much more self-sustained in who we are and what we're wanting to create. So don't worry about that if you don't know what that extra picture looks like on the outside quite yet. Because I know when I was in that place with my 6-year relationship that was very codependent, and I was overworking, and I was having my health breaking down and all of these other things. If you had have showed me my life today, I wouldn't have ever thought that this was possible. I wouldn't have even, like, it wouldn't even been something that I even wanted, but because I didn't even know that it existed. Right. So we don't know what we don't know. And that's the whole thing with this journey, is that the more that we kind of dive into these little pieces, the more we start seeing what is actually truly possible for us. So if you're open to sharing those two things in the comments, just about like what those snake-like thoughts are that are coming up for you, or even writing them in your journal. And then what do you risk? What do you risk by hanging on to those thoughts? And we would love to hold you in that. Yeah.
I love this. I love this so much. I think that the the top way for us to really overcome the negative thought loops in our mind is, rather than having an expectation of what we see the outcomes need to be in order for us to be happy, rather than expecting ourselves to be a certain way in order for us to be happy, but instead it's to get curious. Let's get curious about what the thoughts, emotions, what hurts are really underneath the thoughts, because those thoughts need a voice. Those thoughts need a safe space, which is why Laura and I do the work that we do, because we hold that safe space for others to voice. And once we voice it and acknowledge it and really have the tools to free ourselves from it, then we feel so much lighter. We feel this weight off of our back. We get to connect with greater abilities to have creativity, to see what's possible for our lives. And so, definitely getting curious, definitely acknowledging how we feel, acknowledging the hurts underneath, and then definitely also asking ourselves how we see, like Laura said, how we see we can meet our own needs. How we see we can meet our own needs, because oftentimes we're looking for the world and other people to give us those needs. And that's why we're left feeling frustrated at the end of the day. And there are ways that we can meet our own needs to help us claim our power back, because those negative thought loops will essentially give our power away to other people. Yeah. Essentially give our power away to situations, to our jobs, to you name it. And so when we can start to meet our own needs, we claim our power back. And that's my vision for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And if anybody has any questions that you would like to put in the comments, then definitely feel free to put them in there. And yeah, we're going to have something exciting for you guys next week to really help you to dive deeper into your journey if you're wanting in that space where you're wanting to dive deeper. So I'm very, very excited for all of you. And I'm proud of you for being here. I think I want to say that too, is that I'm just proud of you for showing up and being here, because there's so many other things you could be doing right now, you know, but you chose to be here. You chose to dive into this inner part of you that is keeping you feeling where you're not really fully fulfilled. And you are hanging on to that inner deep knowing that there is something actually greater out there for you. So keep hanging on to that inner knowing, because there's something greater out there for all of us. I believe that.
Totally. And we're so excited to be sharing the tools to allow you to really tap into those deep states of being. So stay tuned for next week. It's going to be exciting. Laura and I have been working on this for many months, so we're so excited to share it with you. But also, we'd love to meet you guys in person. So if you are in the Toronto area and you're around December 10th weekend, definitely come and experience what a healing space looks like, what it could look like to actually start to embrace community, voice the hurts, and really tap into new levels of freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you are not in the Toronto area, we are going to be hosting some stuff online as well. So there will be spaces for you to be able to dive into as well. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Julia. Thank you to everyone with us. We love you.
Fun.
Enjoy your day. Bye, everyone.